Xenogears is an ambitious masterpiece. Xenogears is a train wreck disaster. To this day, I don't know exactly how this game got into my house. I played platform games and racing games, but this was new, this was different, this was amazing. I opened the case, put the second disc in for the first time, and nothing happened. Years went by. I grew up, got older, but in the back of my mind, I would occasionally wonder, what's on disc 2? The opening of the story shows the takeover and destruction of a massive spacecraft, with words, "I am the Alpha and the Omega," text crawl. This is Fei Fong Wong, and he does not remember much. But in general, he is surrounded by friendly faces that I am sure nothing bad will happen to. From here, Disc 1 follows an escalating pattern. Fei arrives, usually followed closely by Saiton. Fei makes progress towards some immediate goal. Bad things happen. We wonder how they could possibly get worse. They get worse. Fei takes a nap, wakes up, and starts all over again. This game seriously has too many villains. From here out, there will be heavy spoilers. Fei is understandably a bit broken by the trauma of the experience. Saiton shows up while Fei is fighting a dinosaur to save Ellie and brings Weltall. Fight their way on to Tatooine and meet Han Solo at the local establishment, but he's pretty useless here. Fei wanders into the desert alone and has an experience I can only describe as an acid trip. The evil mech guy from the village shows up and tells Fei it is his fate to slay God. Fei can't catch a break and gets captured. Saiton does some scheming and suddenly pirates. This is Bart, by the way, and he is the best character in the game. Bart and Fei work together to escape and run into an old man named Balthazar, who does not believe in evolution. Turns out Bart is supposed to be the king of Ava. Bart asks Fei to help. Fei does what any sensible person would do considering the horrors he has witnessed and says no. They head to the capital together and hatch a plan to rescue Margie, Bart's fiancée, who is held captive as a hostage. She has a jewel called the Fatima Jasper. What is that? We don't know. Also, Dan is here. You can either choose to beat up this traumatized child or refuse to fight him. Fei also meets this guy. Who is this guy? We don't know yet. Bart and Fei rescue Margie. Somehow Fei just shows up, but we're all caught by Gebler goons, Ramses and Myong. Who are they? We don't know. Ramses notices Fei fights like the demon of Elaru. Who is that? We don't know. Bart and the others come up with a plan to take back Ava. It's a horrible plan and fails spectacularly. Fei beats Ellie even though she amps up on monster drinks and gets edgy. Fei moves on to his real target, this generic cross-face general. Graf shows up and gives cross-face general, who I can't remember his name, power. And Fei's unit is wiped out and he blacks out. Meanwhile, back with Bart, he is surrounded by Shakan and Ramses. And just when things can't get worse, they get worse. The red mech is about to finish off Bart when Sigurd drops the sand sub on top of him. Who is this guy? What happened to everyone? Who is playing the organ now? What is going on? I just can't... Okay, I clearly need a break, so let's talk about the music for a minute. It's really good. There are not a ton of tracks on this 40-hour game, but what is here is appropriate and pleasing to listen to. I particularly like the overworld theme. Yasunori Mitsuda's first solo outing really shows a lot of depth while maintaining a consistent and interconnected soundscape. The music sounds otherworldly, and it's difficult to pin down any influences, unlike a lot of popular RPG music from the time. This helps Xenogears feel like a unique place, with its own enormous history that we are only experiencing a part of. My personal favorite track is the world map theme, as I've already mentioned. It makes me wish I could just turn random encounters off as a teenager. I would fire up the game, go to the world map, and then just let the game run, playing the sound on loop while I studied or read. To this day, I find it to be a very soothing piece of music to listen to. Okay, I can do this. Deep breaths. Maybe all the craziness will ease up a little and we can resolve some of this plot. Faye wakes up in prison and Kislev dropped off by these people. Saitan follows him because of course he does. We are introduced to Rico. He runs things around here and is our introduction to demi-humans as a race. He promptly puts us back in the hospital. Once awake again, Saitan schemes to extradite Faye by winning the gear fighting tournament because turns out Weltall is here as well. Hammer, another demi-human, and a prison scrounger helps us out. So we run back and forth fighting in the tournament, which is this minigame, 3D running fighting game that just kind of comes out of nowhere and is actually kind of fun. Anyway, in the midst of this, we keep seeing these scenes of brutal murder in our sleep. Rico shows up and explains that all the people murdered in the sewer were previous opponents of Faye's in the arena and sets off to either prove us innocent or take us down. We offer to go with him, of course, and kill the monster in the sewer that surely was the real culprit, right? We wind up killing a monster in the sewer that surely was the real culprit, right? I mean, its name is Red Rum, a clear indication of malice and ill content, right? Right? Anyway, we beat Rico in the tournament and win our pardon. We go to meet the organ grinder from earlier, and Rico just falls out of a vent in the ceiling. It's implied that Rico is the son of the Kaiser, but all of Rico's plot development begins and ends in this single room. Solaris attacks with Ellie to purge the city and probably kill Faye. But how did they even know he was here? Ellie finally switches sides and helps us defend the city, but nearly dies in the process. She's saved in the last moment by Graft? What is going on? Why is Graft helping? So Graft and Myong have something going on between them in the form of an uneasy alliance. He scratches her back, she scratches his, and it's slowly becoming apparent that Myong might actually be the one pulling the strings and Gebler behind everybody's back. She's very interested in Ellie, as we've kind of already seen, and Graft is very interested in Faye, so the two of them are helping each other out. So to recap, we have Solaris, led by Cain the Emperor, who is connected to Saitan, and these guys, who are connected to Ramses and Myong. Myong seems to be operating towards her own goals, and Graft is operating toward his own goals, but sometimes those goals intersect with Myong's goals. Shakan is Gebler's puppet, who killed Bart's father, and the Kaiser is fighting with him because Ava is now the aggressor in the war. Did I forget anybody? Oh yeah, there is the Demon of Elaru, who wants to kill everybody. None of these factions' ultimate goals have been revealed to this point in the story, by the way, and we are 11 hours in. That is just the villains. What's up with Faye? What's up with Ellie? Whose side is Saitan on? What does this cross mean, and why is there a psycho child laughing at me? So the group decides that since they are wanted in Kislev now, the town they just saved, by the way, they are going to steal the super weapon, Goliath. Way to go out under the radar, guys. Graf tries to stop them for some reason, but they get away. But then Bart shoots them down in a new Yggdrasil that can now drive on water. Bart rescues everyone except Ellie and Faye, who are stranded for a time until being picked up by the Thames. The Thames is an independent salvage rig working for the Ethos, and their captain is the best character in the game. Ramses attacks the Thames, and everybody finally gets back together. But then Ellie is captured, Myong does some voodoo, and sends her back to the group. She is hypnotized to sabotage the Yggdrasil, and Domina shows up because she also was by Myong. Who's Domina? She's like Sigurd, but her Solarian brainwashing actually seems to be working, and she works for Ramses. Suddenly I'm wondering if there's a technical term for brainwashing a brainwashed person. Anyway, After that, we fight Ramses, who puts Faye in a coma before Ellie saves him, but I keep wondering, why did the whole Ellie gets kidnapped sequence happen at all? Couldn't we have put Faye in a coma then? I'm not exactly sure what was revealed in that sequence except that Myung has these psychic powers, and they're not really relevant because they don't come up again in the story. With no other options, and Faye getting worse, the group decides they need the Ethos to wake Faye up. We meet some members of Ethos, including a character named Billy. Billy fits right into our group of traumatized children. Tragic backstory? Check. Complicated parental relationships? Check. Has a giant fighting robot? Check. And is 2 steps away from having his entire world flipped upside down? Check. Billy is sort of a white mage, but with guns. We take Faye to the Ethos, who tell us Faye is just tired and needs a nap. Really? That's all that's wrong? We run over to Billy's place, which is an orphanage. To thank him for his help. Billy tells us about his father leaving, his mother getting murdered by Wells, which are mutants but not demi-humans. Since then, Billy has been raising his little sister and became a monk to love his parents and kill Wells. And he's all out of parents. His dad did come back later, but Billy understandably still has not forgiven him. Billy gets a call to purge some wells, and we are off to our haunted ship level. These things look like Red Rum. Remember Red Rum? Ah, good times. Billy goes to clock out and... Okay, death and destruction everywhere. Talk about being dead by Friday at the office, right? Turns out the Ethos was founded by Solaris as another means of controlling the lambs. They take in the downtrodden and sell them to Solaris as slaves. They also dig up gears and keep the war perpetually going from the side of Kislev. They grew more wicked and greedy and started making plans to break away from Solaris and rule the surface world for themselves. And when I say wicked, I mean horrifyingly wicked. Billy is shattered by all these revelations. His entire faith is proven to be a sham and a lie. Jesse turns up to parent Billy and rescue him from emotional trauma as best he can. Billy's surrogate father, Bishop Stone, another new villain by the way, is actually a double agent working for Krellian inside Ethos to rat them out and poach their discoveries for Krellian. Who is Krellian? He is, you guessed it, another antagonist. We rescue the Thames from Krellian, who's driving the same ship that dropped Faye off earlier, and we chase him and Stoned into the ancient city of Zeboim to try to keep them from getting something. Turns out it's a little green-haired girl, except she's not a girl, she's a nanomachine colony. I feel like this game jumps the shark so often. Like, how did we even get here? Id shows up, because of course he does, but Stone gets away. We go after him and suddenly Faye is awake and his gear is smoking? Nothing to see here, people. We fight Stone, who has been augmented by Krellian and Kaiokened by Graft. Stone is actually the one who murdered Billy's mother, and the father and son deliver some Second Amendment justice on him. And Billy's arc comes to an end as his mute sister speaks for the very first time in 10 years. Krellian gets away with the nanomachine girl, but there isn't really anything we can do about that right now. Out of leads once again, the party decides to try to reach Shavat. Shavat is like its Solaris, except you can see it. And they are not evil. Well, actually, they were evil about 500 years ago, but I'm getting ahead of myself. To get to Shavat, you have to climb Babel Tower, and the party heads there. This is a good place to talk about dungeons in Xenogears, as Babel Tower is kind of the middle of the road in terms of quality. A lot of people don't like it, but it starts out badly and then gets more interesting as you get in. First, there is some light platforming, which is not one of the game's strengths. Sometimes you will run up to a ledge and the game will be loading a random encounter. You won't know this, so you'll hit the jump button. The game will keep your forward momentum input, but will not register the jump because, again, it's loading a battle. So you will fall in a hole, and then as soon as you land, you get the random encounter. You have to be aware when platforming how long it's been since your last encounter and whether it's worth the risk to take the jump, or wait till the encounter drops and then jump soon after. Babel adds these swinging ropes into the mix, which makes things even more complicated. Most of the dungeons are standard mazes with light puzzles for doors and an emphasis on moving between floors. Some puzzles are intuitive and clever, others are obtuse and frustrating. A good example and a bad example come from the same dungeon in the late game. There's a room that you walk into and spikes drop from the ceiling to crush you, but if you read the hint nearby, the solution is to stay calm and stand still. But literally in an adjacent room, there is a walk this many steps by this many steps that will drive you insane. It's easier to solve the puzzle without the hint by exploring the room and hitting the X button until you get a prompt. Any type of movement-based puzzle that requires precision is basically a gamble, but overall the dungeons are decent, if not a little on the long side from time to time. At the top of the tower, we meet Maria and her gear Zibzane. Maria will be the next member of the club because she ticks all the same boxes. Her dad went crazy, turned her mother into a mech that she is now driving, and wait, this sounds sort of familiar. We explore Shavat, which is in a state of decay and has an air of wistful longing, in no small part due to the excellent music. It's a very cool place. Solaris shows up again, led by Maria's father, who fused himself with his own gear and wants to take Maria and do the exact same. So Maria gigamaxes her Pokemon Choo-Choo to battle for her, and okay, we get another surprise party member. This is Chew, which my son names PK, for my playthrough. She's actually been with us for quite a while, since we rescued Margie from Shakan. We thought it was just a stuffed animal, but it turns out it's alive. It has not been a party member, but for reasons it decides it does not like bullies and steps up to fight the giant mecha until Maria can steal her courage to stand up to her own father. But it turns out her father was just brainwashed by Solaris. I hear it's a common problem. He comes to his senses just before he dies, and Maria ends her father's suffering, and that is the end of her plotline. You're probably seeing a pattern here. I'm going to talk more about character arcs and the writing, but we have one more recruitable character. Also, I want to establish the context of the story before I open the writing can of worms too much. I will say that Xenogears has some stellar examples of world building, and some of the characters remain engaging and well written throughout, but not all of them, and some suffer more than others. Remember the guy from the tournament? He's been popping up occasionally to guide us and save our butts when we are in a tight spot. He's also here in Solaris as well. Turns out Wiseman is connected to Faye's father and was from Solaris originally. His teachers were the mythical three wise men, of whom we have met one already, Balthazar. Turns out he is Maria's grandfather. Suddenly I feel a lot more guilty about killing him in that cave. Or not killing him? Again, it's confusing. The second wise man, Gaspar, removes some of the limitations on our party, upgrading our death blow potential. And Queen Zephyr upgrades the Yggdrasil, so now it can fly, which is great because old Shakan is back and he's invaded Nissan. We fly there and take back the city, but the citizens are in catacombs underneath the church. Turns out that Jasper is the eyes of the Fatima dynasty, and Shakan wants to steal the eyes of Margie's dead mother to open the final door. The party splits up, one group will stop Shakan and the other will retake Ava's capital while Shakan is away. You need two eyes to open the doors, and so Margie and Bart work together to progress, indicative of how much they rely on each other, despite both of them often feeling like only a burden to the other. Also, it's a nice visual symbolism with the teachings of Nissan, which revolves around the image of a man and a woman, each with only one wing. Apart, they are grounded, but together, they can fly. The treasure is a powerful tech base and an Omni-Gear left here by Bart's ancestors. Omni-Gears are super gears that are powered up by fusing a gear with an animal relic. There are 12 relics, each named after a tribe of Israel from the Bible, and the TV guys in Solaris, remember them? I haven't talked about them very much because all they do is show up and say cryptic things before Gebler or Krelian do bad things. They are searching for these relics as one of their goals to revive their bodies that they lost along the way. I hear it's a common problem. Backed into a corner, Shakhan flees to one of Solaris' gates. These gates hide Solaris behind a spatial distortion, so destroying them comes to the top of our list of things to do, and since Shakhan is here, so much the better. Graf shows up, and we put a bunch of ether upgrades on Ellie, and she shreds through Shakhan's health with her air rods. Seriously, this strat will trivialize most boss encounters that you have Ellie for, so if you plan on playing, give it a whirl. This boss is much harder without this strat, but once Shakhan goes down, the gate explodes and Bart is crowned king, until he immediately abdicates and declares Ava a republic. We learn Sigurd is actually Bart's half-brother, same dad, different mother. Sigurd was sent to the palace as a boy by his mother, and even though the king could not openly declare him his son, he treated him well. When Sigurd was kidnapped, it was his love for Bart and Margie that helped him break free from his brainwashing, and he returned. He holds no ill will towards Bart as the legitimate son, and they accept each other as genuine brothers. I'm not crying. Shut up. Ramses is starting to have a mental breakdown from getting beaten by Faye over and over again, and he starts to lose his composure more and more. But he's still beat up from his losses, so he sends his Power Ranger squad, led by Domina, and I'm only half kidding about that, to stop the party from destroying the next generator. The next generator is underground, so we use Fort Jasper to fire a beam, which we bounce off a lens on Babel Tower to destroy the generator. But the Lion Force tries to stop us. We buy time for Billy to fire, but he misses, and we have a fight again. Second time's the charm, and we only need to blow one more generator up, and then we can find Solaris. The next generator is underwater, so we go to the Thames and get our gears modified for deep sea dive and descend into the abyss. I want to pause here and talk about how often Xenogears will pad out dungeons or encounters unnecessarily. As we are wrapping up the first disc, it becomes more and more apparent that they had this idea that they needed longer sections of gameplay to buffer the story-heavy sections. I mean, did we really have to fight Domina and her gang twice? What about the 2 underwater submarine battles? Inexperience of the team shows in Disc 1 through these padded sections, and I cannot help but wonder if they had spent less time here, how much further the game would have progressed before they ran out of time. I guess my point is that in hindsight, they could have absolutely finished this game in 2 years with better pacing in the first disc, leading to more content being fleshed out in the second. I did not notice it as much when I was a teenager, but it stands out now since I've played the rest of the experience. Sometimes things drag needlessly, and it gets extra frustrating because we are hours in with no resolution in sight, and still more villains and allies are popping up from time to time on a regular basis. But at the end of the day, there's so much content that could have been cut to streamline all of this that it would have benefited Disc 2's production. And what were we talking about? Krelian. Krelian has sent a goon and the nanomachine girl to stop us from destroying the next reactor. Her name is Emerelda, and she does not seem to be fully cooperating with Krelian, and at the end of the fight recognizes Faye as someone named Kim. Emerelda is very childlike and insists on staying with Faye, not wanting her Kim to leave her ever again. She looks to Faye like a father figure, and as not to upset her clearly fragile grasp, after what she's been through, Faye decides just to play along. Emerelda and Ellie are jealous of each other, which is both funny and strange. And with that, we have all of our party members. And next time we come back, we'll talk about the characters in Xenogears. Thanks for watching these first 2 parts. If you missed the first part, you can find links down in the description for it. And we'll see you all in the next video as we try to wrap up this retrospective of Xenogears. Thanks for joining us.